Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, now here I am with another review of a live action movie based on a cartoon. Alright, and now for my next review. This is going to be a review for The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas. Of course, like in my last review, I reviewed the first Flintstones live action movie. And if you saw my review for that movie, you know how I hated that movie. It was just like so freaking bad. I mean, I haven't even liked that movie ever since I was a kid. So I just really just hate the first movie like so much. So yeah, and and this movie, rather than it actually being a sequel to the first film, this is actually a prequel. So this is set before the events of the first film, and it's even set before like the cartoon. Yeah. And plus, I really don't think I had actually ever seen this movie. Well, I think I might have actually like watched it like once when it first came out, but I haven't watched it in a very long time. I really didn't know what to really I wasn't really too sure exactly what this movie would be about. I mean, aside from it being a prequel, I really didn't like know what its plot would be or anything like that. Because I just like didn't remember anything about this movie, so I really didn't know what to expect with it. Yeah, and so but I did give this movie a watch. I mean, reluctantly, but I did watch it, and what can I say about it? It was terrible, just like the first movie. I mean, this was horrible too. I mean, was this something that people really were asking for? I mean, does anybody really care about like this story? I mean, the story really is just like really about like how Fred and Barney did meet Wilma and Betty, and that's really it. That really is like the story that this film really is all. It really is telling, just like how they met Betty and Wilma. That's it. Like seriously, I mean, was anybody really asking for this? I mean, does anybody really care? I mean, yeah, not really. So I really don't even know like why they even bothered to even make this movie. Was there something like was the studio just saying, "Oh, you got to make another movie after the first one"? Yeah, and they just like thought like just do something, anything. They probably couldn't think of anything, and so they just decided, "Oh, we'll just make a movie showing how Fred and Barney meet Wilma and Betty." And then they made this. Like seriously, who gives a crap? Seriously, I mean, this film came out 6 years after the first one. The first film was released in 1994, and this film was released in 2000. A 6 year gap between them. So why did they wait 6 years to make another movie? I mean, why did they make one 6 years later? Was the original plan were they actually like planning to make a sequel to the first film? But they were just like they had like problems with it, like problems with like having the cast come back or something else like that. And they just like the film was put on hold, and then finally, just 6 years later, they decided to do this. Just seriously, who cares? Like, why did they even make this film? Yeah, and like I said, this film is absolutely terrible, just like the first one. I mean, this film really basically it does suffer from the same problems that the first film did. Just like I said in my review for the first film, like seriously, I mean, this is just so stupid. I mean, I said in my review for the first film how just the Flintstones just does not work in live action. The jokes do not work. They just look stupid, and that's the case here too. Like really, I mean, in well, like I said, just whose idea was it to make the Flintstones in live action? I mean, it just makes the everything look so stupid. So what were they thinking with this movie? These movies? Because the first film had the same problems. And the story just it's pretty. I mean, the story is just it's pretty pointless and useless. I mean, like I said, it is about how Fred and Barney did meet Wilma and Betty, and in this film, like pretty much like I mean, this film has none of the original cast back. Like no John Goodman, no Rick Moranis, no Rosie O'Donnell, no Elizabeth Perkins. Yeah, just like nobody from the original film does return for this. Everybody is like is recast in this film. Like in this film, it has Mark Addy as Fred, Stephen Baldwin as Barney, Kristen Johnson as Wilma, and Jane Krakowski as Betty. Yeah, and and just the performances really don't stand out. Like just their performances are very forgettable. Yeah, and and like I said, just it shows how like if this is like how Fred and Barney do qualify to be crane operators at a Slane Company. Yeah, and it shows how Wilma is like living like she does live amongst like kind of like a wealthy family, and her mother's like very controlling, and Wilma just like decides she has enough of it, so she runs away and eventually meets Betty, and then they do eventually then meet Fred and Barney, and then then they go on dates, and then they form connections with each other, and yeah, and you can pretty much guess like what happens then. Like they fall in love and then all this stuff, and in this movie it also shows how Wilma does also like have like a there's this like like a casino owner who's a Wilma's like a stranger boyfriend, and and then eventually then when uh Wilma then like gets an invitation for her father's birthday party, she brings Fred, Barney, and Wilma along, and then then Fred meets the boyfriend Chip. Yeah, yeah, and it shows at first how Chip is really just making a mockery of Fred head with like his job and everything. And it also shows how Wilma's mother doesn't like her daughter's new friends. But then eventually, then like when then after like a Dino ends up crashing the party, then like then Chip then like seemingly apologizes and then invites Fred, Barney, Wilma, and Betty to his casino in Rock Vegas. So I haven't even talked about Rock Vegas yet. Just that is such a horrible pun. Like seriously, like how many of these like, seriously, how many of these like puns are they gonna have in these movies? Like it's just awful. They have the universe shell. Oh, in the beginning, once again, they show the Universal logo at the beginning of this film, like they did with the first one, but it says Universe Shell again. And they just have like all these horrible puns in this movie, just like they did in the first one. Just seriously, stop with the freaking puns; they're not funny. Yeah, yeah. Then it shows like how Chip like ends up like is a like has a plot for Fred to gamble for gamble, and then like he really just does have this plan to just like he does have this plan to collect money. Well, and he does want to like marry Wilma so he can in like he can inherit the money from from Wilma's family. So he really just wants to marry Wilma to access like the family fortune. So he's just like so he comes up with this scheme to like a trick Fred into like a gambling and then lose all this money, and then he frames a Fred for a robbery, and so and then when Barney tries to defend Fred, like Chip just says like Barney's an accomplice for it, and so the two of them are arrested, but then they eventually do escape, and then after like there was like a problem between Fred uh Barney and Betty after like Betty like seemingly saw Barney with another woman, like she like dumped him, and then Wilma also went back to Chip, but then eventually, Fred and Barney then get back to Wilma and Betty, and then then they reconcile, and then and then like it ends by showing Fred and Wilma having a wedding, like they get married, and that's pretty much like all this movie really does have. So that's really it. So it really is just like this useless story with just the the couples meeting up. But then then it just shows how they form a connection, and then then they get like some sort of like uh conflict in here, and it pretty much goes down the same route as the first film did. Like it just has a bunch of scenes that really don't go anywhere, and it really is just like a useless story. And like I said, just like nobody really does care. Nobody really wants to see this. Nobody wants to see how Fred and Barney met Wilma and Betty. So yeah, so this really is just a story that nobody really cares about. Yeah, and also like I guess I should also talk about like in this movie it also does show how there's a little green alien that is like a exiled to Earth to like study like the Earth life or something, and yeah, and it shows like this alien is named the Great Kazoo, and it's played by Alan Cumming, and the effects for this alien are freaking horrible. I mean, I talked in my review for the first movie like how the effects in the first film were absolutely awful, like with like the dinosaurs and everything, but in this film they are so much worse. Like the effects are look like so freaking awful. Whether it is like this alien or the dinosaurs in the film and all these other like horrible effects in the movie, like seriously, they're awful. I mean, and this movie came out in 2000, so wouldn't you think that they would at least like these effects would at least look like at least semi decent? But no, they don't. Seriously, like how do these effects look so bad? And seriously, this is like seriously, I don't know like how the effects could be so horrible. I mean, were they just on a really cheap budget, so they didn't have enough money to make them look convincing, or at least like decent for the time? They are so bad. Yeah. So seriously, this film is just like an absolute mess. That's like seriously, like I said, the plot's useless. The performances really are forgettable. Like it's just like a bunch of useless scenes and yeah, just a forced conflict, bad effects. So yeah, this film really is just like an absolute utter mess. So I just really don't know what else to say about it. Like it is just awful and yeah, and it is definitely just like not worth watching at all. Just like if you haven't seen this film before, just keep it that way. Just skip this film. Don't check it out because it is just like so bad and it's pointless and just yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, why they even bothered to even make this movie, because it is just like such a useless piece of crap that has no point of even existing. So yeah, is it worse than the first film? Well, I really don't know because, I mean, I just had like a real big hatred for the first film, I mean, yeah, and this film really just seems to be like just as bad. I mean, there were like some people that did like consider this film to be an improvement over the first one, but I really don't even know if I can even say that because just both are so horrible. So, yeah, so really just I guess whichever film is worse is really up to you. Like you decide which film is really worse. I can't really decide because both are just so freaking horrible. But yeah, this one is just totally pointless. So yeah, so I just really don't know what else I can really say about it. Just yeah, it's a useless story. Nobody was asking for it, and just like a bunch of bad effects and bad performances, and yeah, it is just like so awful and so forgettable, and has no point of even existing. So yeah, so I say this is definitely just worth a skip. Just pretend this film doesn't even exist because there's no point in even watching it. All right, so yeah, so I guess I would give this film a 1.25 stars out of 4. All right, so yeah, so I just really don't know what else I can really say about it. It's just so bad. So yeah, so I guess this is all I can really say about this. All right, so yeah, so this is it for my review of the Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say about it. I know this was kind of a short review, but yeah, like I've been saying, like this film is just like so freaking bad. I just don't know what I can really say about it. But it is just like such a bad film. It's so forgettable, and there's really not a lot to talk about with it. So yeah, pretty much like what I was just talking about, like going through this film, was really like the best way I can put it. All right. So yeah, so I guess this is it for my review of Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas. So yeah, so I hope you guys did enjoy this review. Yeah, and stay tuned because for my next review, oh man, for my next review, this is really gonna be interesting because yeah, I've already like said like how bad like these two Flintstones films are, and I also riffed it on the Ninja Turtles films. Yeah, if you think those films are bad, and yeah, and even like some of the other films I'm going to be talking about throughout this month, if you think like these films are bad, the next film I'm going to be talking about is just shows like how bad these movies can really get. So yeah, so the next movie I'm going to be reviewing is probably like the worst live action adaptation of a cartoon ever because it is just so bad and yeah, and it was a very hated film, and yeah, and yeah, and if you watch this film, you're probably gonna be like wishing that you were the main character because yeah, you're probably gonna wish that you were like him and you couldn't see. So yeah, that probably gives you a clue on what the next movie I'm reviewing will be. All right, so stay tuned for that review coming up next. Oh boy, and I'm not looking forward to it. All right, but stay tuned because that's going to be coming up next. All right, but that does it for this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.